Good morning, and welcome to Unity of Port St. Lucie and our YouTube Sunday service. Joining us this morning for the first time is the Reverend David Maloney. He is a Unity minister and licensed Unity teacher. He goes back to the mid-90s with his experience with the Unity School of Christianity. So David, we welcome you. And let's begin our service with opening song of One Light. Thank you, Jeff. Linda, appreciate that. If you would, settle back into your chairs, get comfortable, and consider these words as we pray the prayer for inner peace. I open my heart and mind this morning to the presence of God that is within me and in everyone and everything, that one power and one presence. I let God's peace fill my being. In this presence, I am peaceful, poised, confident, and strong. I relax in God's loving care and release all of my cares, knowing that God is upholding me and sustaining me in all that I do. God's presence calms me, quiets the storms around me, and leads me to a place of perfect peace. As I center myself in that peaceful presence this morning, I let go of every concern and relax in the safety of God's love and in the love of those around me. I find Unity of Port St. Lucie a sanctuary of love and peace, and I am open and receptive to receive all it has to soothe my mind and soul this day. And so it is. Amen. And now, Sherry, would you read the daily word for us?
Good morning. The daily word for Sunday, April 26th is release. I release all that does not contribute to my highest good. John's Gospel tells of Jesus restoring life to his friend Lazarus, who had been dead 4 days. As Jesus cries, "Lazarus, come out," his friend emerges from the tomb, burial clothes still covering his face and wrapped around his hands and feet. Jesus says to those who have gathered, "Unbind him and let him go." Even after a spiritual resurrection, I may remain bound, like Lazarus, by thoughts, ideas, feelings, or habits that keep me from the full experience of freedom. Through my divine power of elimination, I release negative feelings, dissolve error thoughts, and free myself from habits and actions that do not serve my highest good. I am no longer bound. I am free. And from John chapter 11, verse 44, the dead man came out, his hands and feet bound with strips of cloth, and his face wrapped in a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go."
Thank you, Sherry. If you would now relax, quiet your minds, and we will sing together, "Surely the Presence."
Surely the presence So let's take a moment as we invite and invoke the presence of God in our midst. God who we know is the only presence and the only power in our minds, our bodies, and all our affairs. God who we know is the good omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, who always, always, always brings forth great good to us, our dear ones, and to all humanity through the activity of the spoken word of truth. So I invite you to take a moment to reflect on the story in the Bible where Jesus was on the seas with his disciples, and the winds and the storms were wreaking havoc on the seas. And the disciples became extremely afraid, and they woke up Jesus. They shook him and said, "Master, don't you care for us? The turbulence is tremendous out there." And Jesus awoke and said to the sea, "Peace, be still. Peace, be still, be still, be still, and know that you're one with God." And as the waves and the seas became calm, it restored in them the confidence. And we can have that same confidence in us that when the seas and the storms are around us, we can utter those same words. Peace, be still. Be still and know that I am one with God. And I ask you to take a few moments in the silence to reflect on this experience as we enter the silence. In the silence. Peace, be still. Be still and know that I am one with God. So let's endeavor to remember to use these very words that Jesus used. Peace, be still. And so slowly, gently, I invite you to come back to this awareness. You can slowly open your eyes and know that God is in charge of our lives and all our affairs, and all is well. And so it is. Well, good morning. First of all, I want to, before I get into my lesson, I want to give you a little wisecrack from Eric Butterworth's book, Discover the Power Within You, where he tells of a woman who lived in the backwoods, and she attended church every Sunday morning. She was there every religious Sunday morning. There's not a morning that she missed. And so this particular Sunday morning, he preached on the evils of drinking and gambling and swearing. And she was right there with him. Every word he uttered, she said, "Amen, amen." Then the minister launched into a tirade against smoking. And this caught her attention. And she immediately got up and said, "See, now you stop preaching, now you are meddling." So my hope is this morning that I do not get into the meddling as I share this message with you. But if it resonates with you, then you can also say amen. So I feel obligated to remind you that this month, in the unity calendar of 12 powers, the power is judgment. And it's represented by the disciple James, meaning good judgment. And the color is yellow. You can see I have a little bit of yellow with me this morning. So the title of my message, as was announced previously, is Conduits for God. Or in common unity speak, we can say we are channels for God. And more appropriately, we can say channels for the expression of God's good. So let me establish at the outset that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Some of us, though, would have us believe that it's the other way around, that we're human beings having a spiritual experience. We come into this world, each and every one of us, for a particular purpose. And let's think about it. One person dies, and at the very same moment, 3 or 4 babies are born. Now, we don't get alarmed when babies are born. In fact, we're joyous, we're happy. And instead of getting alarmed when someone makes their transition, and that is only because we become emotionally attached to the particular person. So talking about babies this morning allows me to segue into a life and death situation, or more precisely, a time when 2 babies were born. And in the book of Kings, 1 Kings, the 3rd chapter, David was the father of Solomon, and Solomon became king. And I bring it to you direct. So in the 3rd verse of the 1 Kings, it says, "And the king went up to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that was a great high place. And he offered 1,000 burnt offerings," Solomon did, "upon the altar. In Gibeon, Jehovah appeared to Solomon in a dream by night. And God said, 'Ask what I shall give thee.' And Solomon said, 'Thou hast showed unto thy servant David my father great loving kindness, according as he walked before thee in truth, and in righteousness and uprightness of heart with thee. And thou hast kept for him this great loving kindness, that thou hast given him a son to sit on his throne, as it is this day. And now, O Jehovah my God, thou hast made thy servant king instead of David my father. And I am but a little child, I know not how to go out or come in. And thy servant is in the midst of thy people which thou hast chosen, a great people that cannot be numbered nor counted for multitude. Give thy servant Solomon, therefore, an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and evil. Who is able to judge this thy great people?' And this speech pleased the Lord, that Solomon had asked the king, asked this thing. And God said unto him, because thou hast asked this thing, and hast thou asked for thyself long life, neither hast thou asked riches for thyself, nor hast asked the life of thine enemies, but hast asked for thyself understanding to discern justice. Behold, I have done according to thy word. Lo, I have given thee a wise and understanding heart, so that there had been none like thee before thee, neither after thee shall any arise like unto thee. And I have also given thee that which thou hast not asked, both riches and honor, so that there shall not be any among the kings like unto thee all thy days. And if thou wilt walk in my ways, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as thy father David did walk, then I will lengthen thy days. And Solomon awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And he came to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the covenant of Jehovah, and offered up burnt offerings and peace offerings, and made a feast to all his servants. So now comes the test. Two women who were harlots, they came unto the king, and the one said to the king, my lord, myself and this woman lived in this one house, and there was no one else but the two of us. And I delivered a child in the house. And after 3 days, this woman also delivered a child. And we were together. And there was no stranger in the house with us. There was only the two of us. And this woman's child died in the middle of the night. And while I was asleep, she took my child and exchanged it for her child. And in the morning when I woke, I realized that the child was not mine. And I told her that this child is my child. And she continuously affirmed that this child was her child. So the king listened very intently to both of them. And then he called one of his servants to bring me a sword. And he gave instructions for the servant to divide the child in two. Now keep in mind that the woman who was the mother of the rightful child, she got up and she said, no, my lord, let her have the child. At that moment, Solomon realized who the true mother of the child was. And he decided, he told the servants to give the child to the rightful owner, because she couldn't stand to see her child being destroyed in two. It's a great story. Solomon, in Unity, we have what's called the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. And in that dictionary, it tells us beyond the physical what it means. So Solomon means whole, entire, complete, peace, soundness. It's a state of mind that is established in consciousness when the soul is unified with wisdom and love. As students who look specifically for information about the individual man, we discern in Solomon a development of the presiding genius at the heart center. In Scripture, brain and nerve centers, more strictly speaking, thought centers are designated as cities, and the presiding or ruling intelligence that controls or directs the work of any center as a personality. Jerusalem means city of peace, and it stands for the heart center. So Solomon, the peaceful man, stands for the presiding intelligence. It's a place of a high, illumined state of consciousness, that high point of silence when man reaches which man reaches when he realizes his unity with God. And Gibeon, the place where Solomon went to offer his prayers and sacrifice, of course, he offered 1,000 sacrifices. 1,000 sacrifices. Can you imagine that? It's the high point in the spiritual consciousness. It is called a place of sacrifice because it is here that man lets go of personal ideas and desires and seeks only the presence of God. So there are some essential steps that one has to take to reach this spiritual realm that Solomon reached. First, there must be an honest desire to know and feel the presence of God. And second, there must be a willingness to eliminate sense consciousness, our sense thoughts from our consciousness. This is accomplished through denying error expression in thought and act and informing the substantial ideas of spirit. One must become like a little child, as Jesus preached on many occasions in the Bible. When one, in the New Testament, when one desires to be taught by Spirit, because the childlike attitude is one of receptivity and obedience. This state of mind invites an inflow of spiritual ideas from the one source of wisdom, which is God. So my question today is, how can we as Unity students harness the same connection that Solomon had with God? It's very important. Well, initially I mentioned that we already have that connection with God, but we are spiritual beings just having this human experience. We worship God in spirit and in truth. And so we have to go to Gibeon, this high hill that Solomon also went. And how we do that? How do we do that? We do that by prayers and meditation. We meditate, and in that meditation we become close or in close connection with God. Then and only then can we access this God channel. So I think about when a baby is born, comes into the world. Each and every one of those children, we were once babies, of course, I'm sure you know that. And so we come with a particular purpose. And if you ask a little child what they want to be when they grow up, they'll say, okay, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be this, I want to be that. I remember one of my sons, he wanted to be a fireman, and today he is in a completely different career. But back to the point, so we and some people, they decided, they want to be a lawyer, a doctor, or whatever. In my case, at a very early age, I wanted to follow this unity way. And so I think it was in 1993 that I came to the States for the second time. Previously, I did come to the States before. But in Guyana, I had been at our Unity Center. And so when I came to New York, I really wanted to go to Eric Butterworth's church in New York City. And so I think it was twice or so every week I would go to classes in my quest to become a licensed Unity teacher. And so as time went by, I think it was a year or so after that I decided to go to Unity Village to take some classes that I had to complete in order to become a licensed Unity teacher. And so I came to, I drove all the way from New York. I don't remember how many miles it was, but it was quite a bit of drive. So I drove all the way to Unity Village, and as I was driving, when I saw the tower, the Unity Tower, I was overjoyed. Anyway, I got there and I got into classes and I met some people, a lot of other Unity students who had the same idea that I had to become licensed Unity teachers on their way to becoming ministers. And so in one of my classes was a lady by the name of Diane Runge. I don't know if any of you know Diane Runge, but she and her husband, they were the ministers at Unity of Fort Pierce. And so we exchanged numbers, and I told her about my desire to move to Florida because I couldn't handle the cold climate. I'm sure many of you who are who are here in Florida escape from the colder climates. But at any rate, so she told me if I come to Florida, I should give her a call and check her out. And so I came to Florida in 1997. I graduated with my licensed teacher's certificate in May of 97. And I came to Pompano Beach. It's a long story, but I'll try to make it short. And so a position opened up at Unity Light to the World in Miami, Florida. And the minister was leaving as well. And so I got the position of being the spiritual leader of Unity Light to the World. I served that ministry for just over 2 years. And while I was there, Diane invited me to speak at Unity of Fort Pierce. Diane, at the time, was moving to Arizona. And so the church tapped me to become the administrator of Unity of Fort Pierce and Port St. Lucie. So whenever I wasn't speaking at Unity Light to the World in Miami, I would come to Unity of Port St. Lucie and do the 9:30 service. That time it was held at the Council of the Aging on Bayshore. I'm sure you know that. And and then I would rush over after the 9:30 service to speak at Unity of Fort Pierce. Eventually, Diane left, and the church, they asked me to become the administrator for the church. And so that's what I did. I think it was a 6-month, and then I got an extension, and then minister came in, and lots of things happened after then. And now I'm back in the area, so I've come full circle, so to speak. So in my early years at Unity Village, I learned from my teachers that there are 3 phases of mind. There's a conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and then the superconscious mind, the mind of God. The conscious mind, as you know, is where you are aware of everything that's going on around you, your awareness. Then those things that matter to you most, you store them in your subconscious mind. Then there's the subconscious mind of God. That's the part where you meet God. That's the highest state of mind, the realm of divine ideas, where you can access the divine ideas to be able to propel you to whatever you have to become or you want to become in life. This is where Solomon met God. That's where we attempt to meet the mind of God when we go into meditation. And like I said, that's where Solomon had the dialogue with God. So the superconscious mind, the Christ consciousness, or spiritual consciousness, is a state of consciousness that is based on true ideas upon an understanding and realization of the spiritual truth. That's from our Bible Metaphysical Dictionary. And this is a paragraph from the Atom Smashing Power of the Mind by Charles Fillmore, where he says the superconscious mind is that phase of mind in which we receive the perpetual inspiration of divine ideas from God. It is the I Am, the Christ mind within us. It is through the activity of this phase of mind that our whole consciousness is spiritualized. As I close, I want to share with you or recommend to you a book that will help you to with your practice of the presence. And that's exactly the title of the book. It's called The Practice of the Presence of God by Brother Lawrence. To manifest these states of consciousness, how do we manifest our purpose? First, there's mind, then there's idea, then there's expression. That is why we have to remain faithful as Unity students. In my own life, I'm very careful of the thoughts that I let in. It's almost like if I have a guard that's standing at the door of my consciousness. You know, I'll give you a brief story. When I was traveling one time from New York, from Florida to New York, my mother lives in New York. My father's passed away almost 20 years ago. But I was sitting on the plane next to a guy who had a child. And this was just after 9/11, so it was fresh in everybody's mind. And you have to be careful of what you say, because these things manifest. So this guy was sitting next to me, and he turned to his son. His son turned and said, "Daddy, the plane is going to crash." And I said, "No, the plane is not going to crash." And so that's just an example of you have to be careful when you're in company with people who are not at the same consciousness with you about what they say and what you let into your subconscious mind, because what you let into your subconscious mind, it manifests itself. So I'm very careful, and I say to people that I keep guard at the door of my consciousness, because I don't want stuff to get in that I don't want that is going to harm me. So I invite you to experience what I shared with you on Solomon's journey to this high place of consciousness. Then, in fact, you'll reap the benefits that Solomon reaped. I encourage you to keep the high watch, like I said, and be assured that you will not only receive what you requested, but that you will receive more than you ever bargained for. God bless you all.
Thank you, Reverend David, for that message and sharing it with us this morning. We appreciate it. And now, Linda and Jeff are going to perform "Gonna Be All Right." Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. And we appreciate you folks out there and your continued support. Your tithes and offerings by mail or electronic transfer, it all helps. We appreciate it. Thank you. Next Sunday, we welcome Reverend David back with us again. Looking forward to another message. Appreciate that. And this morning, I think we can close with our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And all is well. Thank you all for viewing us. We appreciate it. Stay well, stay healthy, stay out of the bug's way, and we'll hope to see you next week.